Hi, and welcome back to another episode. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about late diagnosis, or I prefer to say late identification. And I'm particularly going to be speaking about my own, and I'm going to be sharing with you some reflections I did, some journaling from the time I got diagnosed, and I did that for a little while. I'm going to do this in two parts because there is a little bit to cover in those. So I'm going to do part one this week, and then part two will come in a fortnight's time as well. The reason I wanted to do this is I often go back and read these reflections for myself to remind myself what this journey has been like for me. But I was thinking that it could be actually really helpful for you as well. Now, you might be somebody who has known that you're neurodivergent for a long time, or you may recently have been identified, or you might be curious and starting to notice some things about how you operate in the world, the type of people that you tend to get along better with. And you might be curious about whether going for an assessment is something that's going to be worthwhile for you. I hope there's something for all of you in these reflections, and I'm going to share them with you. So, what led to my assessment? At the time, I worked as a psychologist, and as we know, the information around autism and ADHD has been mainly based on boys and men. And it's not until more recent times that we've had more information coming through about what this looks like in women and girls. So I had been doing some learning and I'd started to notice things in my clients. And for some of them, I was recommending that they had an assessment. And I was also supervising other psychologists at the time. And I would hear cases and I would ask the supervisee, did they think perhaps the client might be neurodivergent? One night I went home and I was thinking about the reasons that I was suggesting assessment for people and realized that these were things I experienced myself and thought, you know what, it's probably time that I get an assessment. So I spoke to a trusted colleague who gave me the details of somebody. I went ahead and had an assessment and ADHD was confirmed. So I'm an autistic woman with ADHD. So to my journaling. Diagnosis. Yesterday I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. It felt validating and helped me make sense of quite a lot about myself. It allows me to be even more accepting of myself and the ways I operate in the world. Throughout the process, I was able to see my strengths that far too often in the past I have seen as flaws and quirks that seemed weird compared to many other people. It has also brought up some sadness and grief that I didn't have this information years ago, when I always felt like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, or that I'd been dropped off on the wrong planet. I always had this sense I didn't fit and didn't really belong, and now I know I was just trying to be someone I wasn't, so I could try and fit with the wrong people. Over the past few years, I've worked hard to accept myself for who I am, and to stop trying to morph myself into someone I think is more acceptable. I've stopped wearing the mask as much, although I know I still mask a lot of my autistic behaviours unless I'm in the company of people I feel very comfortable with. This diagnosis has been a long time coming, and I'm glad I gifted myself the opportunity to explore this. I have no doubt that a range of emotions will surface over the next little while, and that's okay. I shall greet them all, as Rumi says, as guests to my house. Be you, be unapologetically you, and if others don't accept you for the beautiful human you are, then head back out and find those who do. I reminded myself to go well and go gently with myself. Just under a week post-diagnosis, I've started to notice a change in how I'm feeling about my diagnosis. I'm still finding it helpful in understanding some of my ways of thinking and my behaviours, and I am unmasking more when I'm at home with my husband. I recognise how different I am when I'm by myself. I don't mask my behaviours anywhere near as much. I'm also noticing a flatness of mood. I've spent my lifetime feeling like I've been dropped off on the wrong planet, that I don't really fit, and am different to many people. This diagnosis has now confirmed for me that I don't in fact fit in this neurotypical world. I am in many ways different, and this is making me feel sad and bordering on a sense of hopelessness that I have felt many times in my life. I also trust that this feeling will pass. I have no doubt there will be many different feelings show up over the next while. I'm having some difficulty in choosing who to share my diagnosis with. There are people who come to mind, and then I question whether it will be weird to just reach out and let them know, so I hesitate. So far, I've only told my husband, my son, one close friend, and another friend who is also neurodivergent. The response from each of these people has been lovely, supportive, and affirming. But despite this, I think there is a part of me that worries about future responses. I know this information is mine to share, or not, as I feel like, and I'll see how I feel as I go. 2.5 weeks since diagnosis. I am noticing a mix of emotions, and more I am settling into this diagnosis and appreciating the understanding of myself that it is giving me. I've told a few more people, and yet still not some people who I would class as close to me. The response I've had from people I've told has been overwhelmingly positive. Many have congratulated me, which felt nice, and one or two have made little comment and just seemed to have taken it in their stride, or at least that's how it looked to me, and I'm okay with that. I'm wondering whether to trial medication for my ADHD and may get myself on a waiting list to see a psychiatrist, a necessary step if I'm wanting medication. It would be nice to think that if medicated, perhaps I can turn all my ideas into something more coherent and get them out into the world. Some of them, I believe, will be really helpful for others. I did go through a couple of days wondering whether Chris, my husband, would still want to be with me now that he knows my diagnosis. I recognise this as internalized stigma and ableism. Sucks that this is a thing, but here we are. I also reminded myself of who he is and how much he has always loved me. And I'm no different now I have a diagnosis, although maybe I'm allowing myself to mask less, and that might be a bit more quirky. And he loves me anyway. I will also need to give some thought to how I navigate this professionally, and whether I want to publicly identify as neurodivergent, and whether this would be helpful for those I work with and also for myself. Not sure how much longer I'll journal my thoughts on this, and not putting pressure on myself to do so either. But this process has felt helpful in helping me process this new identity. 7 weeks since diagnosis. Generally, I've been feeling really positive about my diagnosis. I'm observing more of my quirks, stims, preferences, and realizing how much I've either masked them or ignored them in the past. I'm still navigating who and when to share my diagnosis with, and absolutely recognize that this is my information to share if and when I want to. Nobody has a right to information I don't want to share. I've been contemplating my podcast and my public image and wondering how long it will be before I decide to share more publicly. One of my strongest values is authenticity, and I'm not sure I'll be able to continue sharing on my podcast and social media platforms without owning my identity fully. Part of why I want to be open about my diagnosis is to be part of the narrative that shows that neurodivergent people come with varying capacities, as do neurotypical people. I want to help bust some stereotypes. One of the greatest assets I have whilst navigating all of this is my self-compassion. Without this, I do think I would be at risk of falling into the self-critical pit. So once again in my life, I'm so grateful to those who have helped me along in my journey. And also, I'm so grateful to my younger self for firstly staying, and then for finding ways to reconnect to myself and really get to know myself, and all the work I have done to find my place, and all the work I have done to find myself in this place of love and self-acceptance. I shall always do my best to remember to go gently with myself, particularly when I forget to do that. 20 weeks since diagnosis. I have been feeling more stressed, and after a therapy session today, I recognise I am in the grief process of diagnosis. It is so similar to when I was diagnosed with chronic illness. I'm fed up of dealing with the microaggressions that I see on social media and experience in my own life from well-meaning but unknowledgeable people. I feel a sadness. I feel frustrated. I feel angry. Part of me wants to give back my autism and ADHD, and of course I know I can't do that. I am reminded today that life is challenging, particularly when you're a neurodivergent living in a neurotypical world, and any change that's going to come is likely going to be slow. I have plans and dreams for a business that will positively impact many women, and I fear that my chronic health condition, as well as my neurodivergence, may get in the way of me bringing to life this dream. Yes, I might be able to manage a small version of my vision, but you know what? I don't want to stay small. I want to embrace the skills and qualities that I've got. I want to make a big impact on the world. I know that I have so much potential, and for years I doubted that. For years I just kept playing small. I don't want to do that anymore. As I write this, tears run down my face. I feel sad for the little girl who struggled to understand why the world seemed like such a weird place. I feel sad for the teenager who thought leaving this world was a better option. I feel sad for the young woman who ended up in relationships that were just not healthy because she didn't understand the signs. I feel proud of all those versions of my past self that persevered, took risks, and had the courage to get me where I am today. I hope you found that helpful, and I invite you to think about whether doing some reflection for yourself might be something that is really helpful for you as well. I look forward to bringing you part 2 of this in another couple of weeks. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. And go well and go gently with yourselves. Bye.